Good day, learners. Welcome to another session of School Organization and Management. I am Dr. Tandra Sharma, Professor, Jagannath Institute of Education, JIMS Engineering Management Technical Campus, Greater Noida. My today's topic is problems faced by the school management, issues of security and disaster management under Unit 4, Elements of School Management. In today's topic, we are going to study about the problems faced by the school management. Parents entrust their children to the school firmly assured of their safety, security, and well-being. The staff working at the schools also expects to professionally thrive in an accident and risk-free environment. It is thus very important for the school management to take some proactive measures for the safety and security of all. The various proactive measures that the schools can take are: number one, control of access to school premises. That is, no access to unauthorized persons. School gates should be closed during the school hours. Rooster should be maintained at the gate. Visitors register should be maintained. In case of doubt, the school authority should be contacted. Parents should be encouraged to seek prior appointment to meet the teachers and principal. Entry only for school-registered vehicles. Second, unwarranted interference in schools' internal matters. All forms of violent attitude, aggressive behavior, use of abusive language towards the staff and pupils inside the school premises should be immediately reported to the police. The third proactive measure that can be taken is security of computer data and files. That is, all computers should be password protected. Password should be changed frequently. Backup data should be maintained on CDs and DVDs and online drives. Only system manager should be authorized to access the backup data. In computer center, the user register should be maintained. Annual stock verification should be done. Fourth, theft at school. All cases of theft should be reported to the police department with details of the items with detailed specifications. And secondly, the principal of the school is required to submit the particulars of the loss. The fifth measure that the school can take is safety of the students at school, which is very important. Students should be under the supervision of the teachers during the school hours. Students should not be allowed to leave the school without proper written permission of the teachers. Physical education teachers should ensure the safety of the students during their games and sports classes or meetings. Special precautions should be taken in laboratories and workshops. Adequate instruction should be given to both the students and the attendants working in the labs about electric shock, hot plates, gases, chemicals, etc. Safety measures should be listed. Sixth, infrastructural works on school premises. Students should be prevented from going to the dangerous areas near the site of the work. Seventh, impending risks. Some precautionary measures should be taken against the following hazards. For example, loose and live wires, hanging frames, unhinged doors and windows, broken glass panes, detached concrete and loose plastering, loose handrails, slippery floors and ceramic tiles in corridors and on stairs, and gaps in fencing and walls. Eighth, fire hazards. Fire alarm should be installed. Students should be made aware to protect themselves in case of fire. Signs indicating the exit should be placed for rapid evacuation. and firefighting equipment should be available on each floor with proper functioning. Ninth, educational tools. Staff should be vigilant during educational tour. Parents' consent form should be collected. Sufficient number of teachers should accompany the students. It can be in the ratio of 1:25. Students should be always in the school uniform. The attendance should be maintained at least twice a day. And apart from that, the bus driver and conductor and no outsider should be allowed in the bus. No diversion from the already approved itinerary should be allowed. 10th, about the school buses. There must be proper discipline maintained by the students in the bus. Teachers, class representative, PTA member should look into the issues related to punctuality, quality, attitude, and reliability of the bus staff. Third, buses should be parked in an appropriate space near the school where they would not constitute a risk of safety of the students. 11th, regarding health issues. The school must have a qualified doctor for regular checkup of the students. Schools must be aware of the students suffering from chronic diseases. There must be health clubs in the schools, and first aid facilities must be available in the school. Measures to reinforce security at the schools. The following measures can be taken to ensure security at the school. Number one, there must be proper boundary walls. The gate should be locked once the school has started. School premises should be well lit. Burglar proofing in all classrooms, labs, and computer center. Money in cash should not be kept in the school. All keys should be kept securely. Proper handling over and taking of the charge during shift duties. These are the following measures that should be followed strictly in the school. Now, the school management also faces issues of disaster. So now let us talk about the disaster management, the concept and meaning. What is disaster or disaster management? Disaster, it is a situation resulting from an environmental phenomena that produces stress, personal injury, physical damage, and economic disruption of great magnitude. The World Health Organization defines disaster as any occurrence that causes damage, ecological disruption, loss of human life, deterioration of health and health services on a scale sufficient to warrant an extraordinary response from outside the affected community or area. According to American Red Cross, disaster is defined as an occurrence, either nature or man-made, that causes human suffering, that creates human needs that victim cannot alleviate without assistance. Disasters can be classified under two heads. One is your natural disaster and the other is the man-made disasters. The natural disasters are of three kinds. One is meteorological disaster, topographical disaster, and environmental disasters. And man-made disasters are technological disasters, industrial disasters, and warfare. The natural disasters can be classified under the following three heads. Meteorological disasters, for example, like floods, tsunami, cyclone, hurricane, typhoon, snowstorm, blizzard, and hailstorm. The topographical disasters are, for example, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, landslides and avalanches, asteroids, limnic eruptions, etc. And environmental disasters are global warming, EI, Southern Oscillation, ozone depletion, ultraviolet radiation, and solar flare. Man-made disasters can also be classified under three heads. First one is the technological disaster. For example, the transport failure, public place failure, and fire hazards. Industrial disasters, for example, chemical spills, radioactive spills, and the warfare, for example, war, terrorism, internal conflicts, civil unrest, and CBRNE, that is, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear explosion. Now let us try to understand what we mean by disaster management. Disaster management, it is the body of policy and administrative decisions and operational activities that pertain to various stages of a disaster at all levels. It is an applied science which seeks, by systematic observation and analysis of disasters, to improve measures relating to prevention, emergency response, recovery, and mitigation. It encompasses all aspects of planning for and responding to disasters, including both pre and post disaster activities. Disaster management, it is a continuous and integrated process of planning, organizing, coordinating, and implementing measures which are necessary or expedient for, number one, prevention of danger or threat of any disaster. Second, reduction of risk of any disaster or its severity or consequences. Third, capacity building. Fourth, preparedness to deal with any disaster. Fifth, prompt response to any threatening disaster situation or a disaster. Sixth, assessing the severity or magnitude of effects of any disaster. 7, evacuation, rescue, and relief. And 8, rehabilitation and reconstruction. Disaster management can be defined as follows. Disaster management, it is a planned approach for prevention of disaster, preparedness and response to disaster, and recovery following disaster. Now let us talk about the school disaster management. School disaster management is the process of assessment and planning, physical protection and response, capacity development designed to protect the students and the staff from physical harm. Secondly, minimize disruption and ensure the continuity of education for all children. And thirdly, to develop and maintain a culture of safety. Physical and environmental protection. This can be classified under two heads, the structural safety and the non-structural safety. Structural safety addresses the safety of buildings on or near the school site, and the non-structural safety addresses the threats posed by building furnishings and equipment, as well as building elements such as roofs, windows, stairs, heating and cooling systems, water storage, pipes, and exit routes. This includes fire safety too. Students should be made aware about the above-mentioned safety measures. Safety and disaster management. Safety planning is familiar to schools. Disaster planning is relatively new to the education sector. Such contingency planning may be seen as an extension of the risk assessment procedure. It is the key to reducing the management of disaster to a system for making decisions at a time when decision making is difficult. By planning in advance, school can ensure that the decisions made on the day of crisis are not only made quickly and effectively, but that they will be correct. Let's talk about the good safety practices. For most schools, disaster planning or crisis management is about ensuring that normalcy returns as soon as possible, and that unnecessary damage is not done to the children and staff or to the valuable relationships built up between the school, parents, and the local community. Good safety practice minimizes the impact of the disaster. Disaster planning and prevention helps to take wise, sensible, and prudent precautionary and preventive measures. Of course, no amount of foresight and planning can completely prevent disasters occurring. Many tragedies are entirely outside the control of the school. However, the school must be prepared to cope with its effect. Types of school crisis. There are many types of crises that can affect schools, but they fall broadly into two categories. Number one, in school or on site crisis, and number two, out of school or off site crisis. Let us discuss the in site or on site crisis. Death of pupil or member of staff through accident or illness, fire or flooding of building or other destruction, a deliberate act of violence such as a knife attack or use of firearm. Out of school crisis or off-site crisis can be deaths or serious injuries on a school trip, national tragedies affecting many schools, and civil disturbances including the act of terrorism. Some general precautionary measures to consider. The school can carry out a full risk assessment in the school. Number two, where hazards are identified, they must take appropriate professional advice to minimize the risk and protect the health and safety of pupils, staff, and other persons. And thirdly, establish and practice evacuation for fire, bomb threats, and other emergencies. Some other special precautionary measures which can be considered are, number one room in the school should be designated as an accident center. It should have a telephone, fax communication, and should be big enough for its emergency roles. Second, establish disaster management roles and responsibilities for the staff. Third, ensure that any teacher outside the school boundaries with a group of students leaves all essential information with the school. Fourth, to ensure that the staff with key roles are not only trained to handle their responsibilities, but are also given opportunity to practice those roles and procedures through simulated practice. Thank you.